Hey, and welcome to episode 31 Property Mastermind podcast with Hilary Saxton. Solo episode today. Today, talking property strategies. Do you have one? Why you need one? How to create one? You're going to learn quite a lot. So let's jump on into episode 31. Hey, episode 31. Happy New Year. Coming out on the 6th of January. I'm really excited to be here. 2022. It's going to be my year, so I'm excited for 2022. Before we get started into property strategies and why you need one, I'm giving away a copy of the book again. I often do. The book, Secrets of Property Millionaires Exposed. For those of you who are listening on Apple or Spotify, there are 9 authors in this book, all write a chapter each on the property strategy they believe to be the best. Of course, Bob's down here. He's written his on why he believes property development is the pinnacle of all property strategies. That's what he's into. And there are some other great people in this book. If you would like to win a copy, you just comment favourably on either Apple or YouTube. But anyway, this week it's going to Terry Power. Thanks, Terry, for the great comment. Terry commented on episode 27, which was our episode on rooming houses, by the way, was a very popular episode. We had quite a response to that episode. So maybe if you haven't listened to episode 27, you might want to jump over and have a listen to that one. But yes, if you'd like to win a copy. But Terry, I know Terry. I've actually met Terry at one of our workshops in Sydney. So this will be in the post view. Thank you so much for your comment. Really appreciate when, we sit in front of a camera and a mic and sort of hope to give out content that people find useful, and it's really nice to have a response. So really appreciate that. And for anybody else, feel free to share the episode. Really appreciate that, and comment favourably. And if you've got any questions, feel free to email me, hilary@propertymastermind.com.au. Anyway, let's get started on why you need a property strategy. Even then, what is a property strategy? You might be thinking, well, at the end of the day, it's kind of like the end game. What's your end game? What do you want to achieve? It's like, what's the goal? I didn't really want to put goal because it stops people wanting to listen to the whole thing, and it's really good content. And I believe, and I've said this so many times before, that goal setting has been watered down so much, and it's actually vital. It is vital that you set goals. So what is your property goal? What would you like to achieve when it comes to property? Now, for some people, thinking like way ahead, like thinking the full end game's too far, and that's okay not to. At least have, like, if we're thinking maybe to half time, if we're thinking a game of netball or football or whatever your sport is, or even to quarter time, what would you like to achieve in, if you can't go 10 years and you don't really want to go 5 years, perhaps you need to think, okay, what would I like to achieve in the next year and a half or the next 12 months? What would you like to achieve when it comes to property? And that can be affected sometimes by your age. Sometimes when you're too young, it's like too hard to think too big, and if you're too old, it's like you don't want to, and that's very general. Like, it has no difference. You can have whatever size whatever game plan you want. But I do find working with people initially when getting into property, if they haven't got a full end game, we have to at least have that 18-month game that I like to sort of step people through and make sure that they achieve. Okay, so why do you need a strategy? Well, number one reason why is that it creates clarity. Clarity around what it is that you want to achieve. And you know yourself, if you're unclear about something, how does it feel? And it might not even be around property. It doesn't matter what it is. When has there been a time for you that you've been unclear about something, and you think back to that, it actually stops your progress. Like, you think, I just don't quite know what to do. I don't know what step to take next. So by having that end game, by having that property strategy, it gives you a starting point of knowing where you're heading. Otherwise, we kind of end up going around in circles with like open loops. Our brain always likes to have a destination. Our brain doesn't like confusion at all. It likes to know what we are trying to achieve, what we're wanting to do. So when the brain feels confused, you'll find that you're not going forward. So if it's not with property with you right now, if you can think of an area of your life or in your business that you need to make a decision about something and you haven't, the lacking of clarity will be making you just slower. So have the end game in mind, whether that's a big end game for 10 years away or 20 years away, or whether it's just an 18-month, whatever it is for you, give yourself that clarity about what it is that you'd like to achieve. The next bit to that is, and I just alluded to it then, what is it that you do want to achieve? Like, what is it? What would you like? Is it just to supplement your income? Is it to begin a massive portfolio? You want to sort of be owning at least 10, 20 properties, or at least 2 or 3? Or what is it for you what you really want? What do you want? So once you know what you want, you can sort of map that to create the strategy. And how do you create a strategy? Like, how does one even create a strategy? Well, the best thing to do when it comes to creating a strategy is to think, okay, I need to allow myself the time to assess my situation. I need to sit down and allow the thinking time. And that's probably the biggest problem that people face, having other people's opinion affect them, or you might ask somebody, what do you think I should do? And they give you too much, and maybe their suggestions aren't for you. Maybe their suggestions are more in line with things that they would like to achieve. Hey, how would you like to improve 2022? On the 20th of January at 7 p.m. Sydney time, I hold a free goal setting session Australia-wide to absolutely anybody. You can share this with a friend. There is no upsell, there is no product launch. Will you just register below, and I will send you a link a couple of days prior and probably the day of it. You jump on and you spend 1 hour of your life planning your future. If you'd like to join us, click the link below. So by giving yourself that time to just have a really solid, honest think about what you want, often going for a walk or thinking about it in the shower, that alone time, even if you're in a relationship and it's something you want to talk about with your partner, it is actually good to have a think by yourself. So you're not influenced, and then you can bring both suggestions to the table and go, I think this, they think that, and you might come up with something extra super because you've given yourself that time and space to have a good think. I mean, it is, I'm not saying don't get other people's opinion, that is good, but it's also really vital that we think about what we want before we become influenced by others. And then when you know how to do that, like I said, alluded to, then sit down and actually start write it down and work it out. So while we're on that, I thought I'd let you know on the 20th of January, I do have a free goal setting session to Australia-wide for anybody, and there's no upsells. So if you're interested in doing that, you're welcome to jump on. There'll be a link below. Just sign up and then make sure you turn up on the day, and it'll take about an hour. So that's the 20th of January, Sydney, Melbourne time, 7 p.m. For those who did it last year, it'll be a little bit different than last year. I probably won't push you as much. I really want you to get through setting yourself 3 goals, and I won't be just taking you too fast, because I do know that there was such a lot of thinking last year. People were like, oh my goodness, my brain hurt. So I'll just pull it back a bit, but really leave you knowing what it is that you'd like to achieve and being really clear on that. So yep, I'd love you to jump on that if you can, link below. Anyway, back to why have the strategy. Well, it really helps with direction. So when you have direction, you know what you need to be doing. It stops you floundering. You'll actually be able to find where the holes are, where you're stuck, what your sticking points are, and what you need to do next. That's probably what the biggest thing will be for you. Create the strategy and then you'll know what you need. For some people it'll mean, I need to get more education. For some people it'll be, I need to get a coach. And for some it'll be, actually I need mentoring. So when it comes to education, obviously propertymastermind.com.au would send you there, but there's lots of other courses out there. Ours is the best, but that's just my opinion. But then also, actually no, that's more than my opinion, that's the opinion of many, many people. But also when it comes to having a coach, like I worked one-on-one with the mentoring people, and I was talking to somebody yesterday who was just stuck again with clarity. They've already got their first project underway, and he's like, right, I'm ready to start looking for my next. And so because he had no clarity, he had no direction of what to do. He's like, I'm thinking this and I'm thinking this and I'm thinking, and you might know that yourself when you think lots of different things. You think, oh, it could be that I could do this and I could do that and I could do this. And so when you're doing that, when you are unclear, it just leaves your brain scrambling. All those open loops, I just think as your brain, you've got like a loop that doesn't shut, and you just kind of find yourself confused and floundering. The other thing, and you may already be on a property journey, but you're thinking, you know what, I'd like to go a little bit different. I want to go a little bit bigger. I want to change my strategy. So if you're struggling to know what that is, when you create that clarity, because it's part of that whole end result, when you create the clarity, you'll know what steps that you need to be taking. You'll know what help and support you'll need. You'll know it just makes everything fall into place. I worked with somebody last year that'd done a few developments, quite a few big ones, and then they got stuck and lost confidence. And that happens to all of us. That's very common. And so we worked together, and then they were able to start again and just take a couple of smaller steps. And it sort of starts with like mining and refining. If you can imagine it, it's like a big sieve, and you just like drop out the stones. Like you just refine down to decide what it is that you really want. That's a really great way of thinking of it, really. Like how do you come down to the smallest, the next step thing that you need to take after you've created your strategy? Because when it comes to goal setting, or having that strategy, sort of, I suppose you could think of the strategy as the end result, and then there's lots of smaller goals on the way. But at least when you've got that underway, it's so much easier for you to create a plan. Like creating that plan is what's going to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. Of course, you have to take action. You have to take the steps required to get there. You need to make sure that you are taking daily actions. You've got to get uncomfortable, because anything worth having is a little bit challenging. Nothing is, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So life can be challenging, especially when it comes to property development, but anything really. The things that you have that you love weren't that easy. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had a child, but crikey, pregnancy and giving birth isn't the easiest things you'll ever do. And even like the new fathers, remember those days when you're up half the night and everybody's exhausted? Life comes with challenges, and then at the end result, you get the thing that you're after. So I think if you think of it like that there'll always be challenges, or things aren't going to be super easy. I had a phone call this week from my daughter who's been looking at property, and I'd sort of been pushing, come on guys, it's time. And she finally found a property, and we talked about it, and she took me through it, by phone. So I went through it virtually. But it got difficult. There were things that were, I don't know what to do next, and this is annoying, and that's really hard. And, they're only young, her and her partner, they're only 25. And so her words to me were, Mum, it's just not meant to be. And I said, actually, whoa. And this advice was given to me years ago, and it just holds so close to my heart, and I think I value it. You know what? When somebody says it's not meant to be, I said to her, it might not be meant to be when you've done absolutely everything you could have to get that property and you didn't get it, then it wasn't meant to be. But if you just came to hurdle number 1 or hurdle number 2 or hurdle number 3 and gave up saying, oh no, too hard, well, I'm sorry. That wasn't that it was not meant to be. That was more along the lines of it just got challenging and you gave up. So sometimes things worth having do take a challenge. They take learning a lot extra. They take jumping through hoops for banks and financiers. There's all sorts of things that we need to do that can be challenging for us, and we could find them quite difficult. So don't be fooled into the whole wasn't meant to be unless you did everything that you could have done to get it. Once you set your mind on what it is that you want to achieve, then you've just got to do it. It's just like Nike. Nike's my favourite saying. You've heard me say it before. Just do it. You just take daily actions, really small ones, that when you look at the big thing, it seems hard. But you don't have to develop the whole thing overnight. You don't have to purchase that thing. There are things, there's always a step. With due diligence, there's steps within due diligence. With finance, there's steps within finance. With the development, every single thing that you do, you might see people have the 9 steps and the 12 steps, and there are those steps, and each one of those breaks down into so many different steps. And as long as you do them all, you'll get there. You will eat that elephant. You'll just take one bite at a time and you'll find that, boom, you get there. So when it comes to thinking it wasn't meant to be, don't think that. I think what we have to think is when we are looking at property development, and even maybe any other property strategy, but definitely with development, we do need to have a level of resilience. We do need to take on board that we don't have to fully get attached straight away to the property because it might not work. It might not work for us and it might not happen. So you really need to think it's a business transaction and I'd like it to happen and I'm going to do everything in my power as long as it works. We don't make stupid decisions. We don't do things that don't stack up, and we make sure we've done the right, our feasibility is right and we've done all the DD. But once we have done all of that, you've done everything you can and you don't get the property, well, the resilience has to bounce up in you and you sort of go, oh, well, back to the drawing board and here I go again. Because, at the moment, some people are paying some silly prices for properties and we're up against that. But when things are a development site, as far as development sites go, they either work or they don't work. So we know that now. The next thing I suppose I really want to sort of finish off with, apart from I hope you've had a great start to the year, is this is your life and you need to be the star of your life. Your life needs to star you. And if you're not feeling like you're starring in your life, then maybe it's time to assess. And it's a great time of year, 6th of January, to assess what it is that's missing for you. And if it's within property, what do you need to do? What have you been putting on hold? Because it's so easy to go, I'll do it next year, or I'll do that another time. Like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago and the next best time is now. We can always find reasons and excuses not to do the things we want to do. And I've alluded to this podcast. It took me a year to get started and actually do it. And that took a year. And I even had a coach helping me. I was doing a few things with my coach, but this was one of the things that I wanted to launch. But when it comes to your life, what are you not doing that you want to do? Are you the star in it? Because you're the only person at the end of the day that you're answering to, and will you pass that rocking chair test? Will you sit down at the end of the day and think, you know what, I did really well. I'm stoked with what I did. I'm so pleased I did that development. And you might just do one and you might think, yep, I'm good now. I only want to do one. Or you might do one and think, whoa, how easy. I'm just so going to be getting into property developing and doing more. So when it comes back to property strategies, why you need a property strategy? Well, at the end of the day, it's to create clarity. And that clarity will help you with direction. It'll help you create a plan. And once you start taking actions toward those plans, it will help you achieve. One last thing, though, I probably should have put in earlier is when it comes to the step 2, the direction that you need to head in, sometimes I find with mentoring students, they come to me and they're really fixated on what they'd like to do. It's like, I want to do this and I want to do it like this. sometimes the strategy or the how you do something needs to not be how you think it's going to be. And so as long as you're heading toward what it is that you want, the destination in mind, as long as you're heading toward that, sometimes it's okay to deviate and maybe have to do things a little bit differently because maybe you don't have enough finance. Maybe, there's something missing for you. You don't have enough serviceability to do the thing that you want. So it might mean that it's going to be a joint venture or you have to borrow money off someone else or whatever. But be okay to go off track a few times, but really you're always like the missile, you're always heading toward that end goal. So people, just a reminder, 20th of January, I am holding the complimentary Australia-wide goal setting session. You're welcome to join me. I'll take you through how to set 3 fabulous goals for yourself for 2022 and beyond maybe. And I would love for you to join us or join me. It'll be an hour, so the 20th of Jan from 7 p.m. Sydney, Melbourne time. Jump on and just spend that time planning your future, because remember what I say, we spend more time planning our Christmas lunch or our wedding or other things that are just for a day than we do planning our whole life. So do yourself a favour and jump on, and I will catch you next week. Looking forward to it. I hope you're having a fun holiday if you're on holiday. See you soon. Bye-bye.